A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. Brothers and sisters, strive eagerly for the greatest spiritual gifts, but I shall show you a still more excellent way. If I speak in human and angelic tongues, but do not have love, I am a resounding gong or a clashing cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and comprehend all mysteries and all knowledge, if I have all faith so as to move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away everything I own, and if I hand my body over so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It is not jealous. It is not pompous. It is not inflated. It is not rude. It does not seek its own interest. It is not quick-tempered. It does not brood over injury. It does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. If there are prophecies, they will be brought to nothing. If tongues, they will cease. If knowledge, it will be brought to nothing. For we know partially, and we prophesy partially. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I used to talk as a child, think as a child, reason as a child. When I became a man, I put aside childish things. At present, we see indistinctly as in a mirror, but then face to face. At present, I know partially. Then I shall know fully, as I am fully known. So faith, hope, love remain, these three. But the greatest of these is love. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Everything I know, I learned in the 4th grade, I think. That was the one year I went to St. John's Catholic School up in Concord. That was the one year I had a nun that taught me. It was Sister Clare Hennessy of the Sisters of Mercy. And I think she was the best teacher I ever had. Now, I know way back in the day, there were like these horror stories of nuns in Catholic schools that were strict disciplinarians and would rap your knuckles if you misbehaved. And I don't know, maybe sometimes that happened. And these poor nuns, they were overworked and underpaid. And maybe you deserved it. You got to kind of consider that too. But Sister Clare was the opposite. She was firm. She was a great teacher, kept control of her classroom. But she was also incredibly kind and compassionate. And she was a lot of fun, too. I remember every Friday afternoon, she would have us clear off the desks from the middle of the room when we were all done our learning, and she would teach us how to square dance every Friday afternoon. That was a lot of fun. And, you know, she was just in creating that loving and nurturing environment, I learned so much. It seems like everything I know, I remember it was in the 4th grade that I learned it. I remember learning the preamble to the Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more... all the states in alphabetical order. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut. I still remember all these things to this day. And it was amazing. But I think above all, what Sister Clare taught me was how to love. She taught me how to love God. She taught me how to love my faith. She taught me how to love myself. And she taught me how to love learning. And I think to this day, I have a lifelong love of learning, thanks in large part to Sister Clare. Well, today we celebrate Catholic Schools Week, and I think of all the Catholic schools in this area that do such a great job teaching our kids, and there are many Sister Clares in those schools, and even just in visiting the schools in this area in the past couple years, you know, we have Sacred Heart in Hampton, and St. Patrick's over in Portsmouth, and St. Mary and St. Thomas Aquinas up in Dover. Actually, someone from the Catholic Schools Office told me that the only town in the seacoast that sends kids to all those schools is Newmarket, because we're like the hub of the universe. We're right here in the middle of everything. And so we use all these schools, and they're doing a good job. I really think they are. They're really been strengthening their education. They've been strengthening their extracurricular activities. They've been strengthening, above all, and most importantly, their Catholic identity and trying to make the Catholic faith more central to what they do. And they're really beginning to bear some fruit in all of that. I noticed that actually a few years ago, it seemed like Catholic schools were closing. They weren't sustainable. We don't have all these nuns around anymore that basically worked for free. And Catholic education is not inexpensive. But I think what's happening now is that we see there is actually a great comeback for Catholic education. And a lot of these schools, in fact, are full and turning people away. And there might be many reasons why families choose to send their kids to Catholic schools. I think that sometimes there's concerns with values being taught in other schools. I think the last couple years with COVID restrictions, there's been a lot of concern about how that's been affecting kids and their education. And I just think there's a greater appreciation for creating a loving and nurturing and faith-filled environment for our kids. And we see how kids grow and flourish in an environment like that. Well, Catholic education is not for everyone, and it's not inexpensive, but I do encourage you, if you think about it for your own family, to go talk to some of these Catholic schools. We were going to have some of them represented today. I think with the snow, they're not all here, but Faith, at least, is going to be back there. It has some information about St. Thomas Aquinas High School up in Dover, but go talk to them sometime, and you might find out that they're willing to work with you. The state of New Hampshire in the last couple of years has passed a lot of educational aid for families to send their kids to private school. And so you might find it's actually a lot more affordable than you might think. And, we value education wherever it's found, good education, whether it's in public school, whether it's in Catholic school, whether it's in home school. We value it because we want our kids to learn so much. And above all, we want them to learn how to love. Because that's what life is all about, loving and being loved. That's how they're going to be happy, if they learn how to love. And St. Paul in our reading today from 1 Corinthians 13, he says, if you have all knowledge and understand all mysteries, if you know the preamble to the Constitution and all the states in alphabetical order, but if you don't have love, then you are nothing. And that passage is so famous. It's one of the most famous passages in the Bible. We hear it all the time, ad nauseum. We hear it at every wedding. And sometimes it comes across as a little bit trite and sentimental, like something you would find in a Hallmark card. But actually, if you really read closely that passage from 1 Corinthians 13, it's actually a whole education in love that St. Paul is giving us. He's teaching us how to love. And if you read it closely, it's actually a little more challenging than you might think. Someone suggested if you want a great examination of whether or not you're a loving person, take the word love out of that reading and put your own name in there. And so instead of saying love is patient, love is kind, you say Caitlin is patient, Caitlin is kind. That works out pretty good. If you say love is not pompous, love is not rude, instead you say Father Matt is not pompous, Father Matt is not rude. That doesn't always work out as well. And so you got to kind of examine yourself to see. Let's try it. When I give the signal, we'll all say our first name out loud, okay? Let's try it. Matthew. Don't say my name, say your name. Matthew is patient. Matthew is kind. Matthew is not jealous. Don't know if it's not working out as well. Matthew is not pompous. Matthew is not inflated. Matthew is not rude. Matthew does not seek his own interests. Matthew is not quick-tempered. See, it doesn't work out quite so well. Matthew does not brood over injuries. That's a tough one. Matthew does not believes all things. Matthew hopes all things. Matthew endures all things. Matthew never fails. Well, sit down sometime with this chapter and really examine yourself to see, am I really a loving person or not? Far from being a sentimental call to action, to feeling, this is really a call to action. That's what love is. It's not so much a feeling. Feelings come and go. Feelings are determined by whether you wake up on the right side or the wrong side of the bed that day. And that's not what love is. Love is really an action where we will the good for the other. And sometimes we get that wrong. We start judging everything according to our feelings. We say, well, I feel good about that, so it must be right. Or I don't have warm, cuddly feelings anymore, so I must not love you. And that, don't start judging things according to feelings. They're a notoriously bad judge of things. St. Paul says love never fails. If that's true, then love has to be something more permanent and stable in our life that becomes a real foundation in our life. C.S. Lewis said in his book, Mere Christianity, he said, Do not waste your time bothering whether you love your neighbor. Act as if you did. To begin to love, there's a certain sense that you almost have to fake it. Fake it till you make it. And because we are fallen creatures, and we don't know how to love as we ought. And so we need to kind of just like start trying to love. And over time, as we learn how to do it, we get better and better at it in our life. We begin to realize I don't love as much as I should in life. I need God to fill me with his love so that I know how to love. And that's why we need loving people in our life as well, like Sister Clare, to teach us how to love, because otherwise we don't know how to do it. Only God is perfect love, and we need his love dwelling within us if we're going to be truly loving people. And if you want to know what God is really like, you can also do this exercise. Take the word love out and put the word God in there. Let's try that. Let's all say God together. God is patient. God is kind. God is not pompous. God is not inflated. God is not rude. God does not seek his own interests. God is not quick-tempered. This is working out much better. God does not brood over injuries. God does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. God bears all things. God endures all things. God never fails. So we must learn to be.